So we talk about the instrument, we talk about the human body dealing with the instrument, and let's talk about human beings dealing with human beings, okay? You mentioned Woody was a nice guy, a good leader, Woody Herman.
Yeah, good band leader.
And then Raymond Scott was kind of militaristic guy.
Yeah.
Very
strict. He is very strict.
And sometimes, and I'm not trying to get this into character assassination, but sometimes when you get into character assassination, you want to take relief by talking about great people. Are there any people that just stand out as like, oh, that guy makes my day. I'm glad that guy exists, or that woman.
Elliot Lawrence, great band leader.
And a great person as a band leader.
Great band leader.
Yeah.
Efficient. Always, he'd listen to everybody if you had some kind of suggestion or comment. You'd always want to hear it. And in fact, I think to a fault, because
he's too open.
I think if he had a little more stubbornness, he would have gone farther than he did. But but
how much further could he have gone?
Well, he got into an area of music where you had to please a lot of people.
Yeah.
Producers.
A lot of producers.
So he
and those award shows.
He adjusted to that, you got to please the people, man. You got to please who you're working with, right? So
yeah.
If you have strong beliefs, you can't impose them on people, Can't always, maybe you subtly can. But.
Are there any other people that was Homer a mensch?
Homer was great for me, but I didn't work with him. I mean, I just studied with him.
Yeah.
But actually, I was having a hard time. He told me I had to stay at his place.
What's that? One more?
I was like between places or whatever, and I was in there looking pretty bad. And he said,
nice.
just stay right here.
That's nice.
That's cool.
His wife had already died. I mean,
Oh.
but he had an extra room.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but I didn't do that. I was like, I have a gig tonight, Homer.
That's cool.
It's funny.
Well, Al Cohen, Zoot Sims, great guys.
Okay.
Tommy Flanagan.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Al Cohen and Zoot Sims, so long together, began with Woody together, and so long for the rest of their lives playing together. I don't know, I mean, I've met them, but I don't know anything about them, but maybe different kinds of guys in certain ways. But they certainly got along.
Everybody has a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I would say the people that started Smalls, Mitch and his wife Rhea, they had that one.
Yeah, I think Mitch got a lot of good vibes from a lot of people.
Those two people, I would say, are very special to me, because they help me when I need help. And that's great. That was great. Now they're not here anymore. They're out in Brooklyn, but I still play.
Yeah, I saw Mitch at one of Barry's birthdays. I think his 90th birthday or something. He'd already finished with Smalls, but he came out.
Yeah.
And everybody.
Barry would be somebody that I thought was pretty amazing. Although he had this whole crowd around him that was just kind of a zoo, but he was pretty amazing teacher, and player.
Yeah.
I didn't know him well, but
I played with
Barry
a little bit.
Yeah, I did too.
Years
in the
ago.
workshop.
Years ago.
Yeah, where was the situation?
It was up at a jazz club up in Port Chester.
Okay.
Bob Zitola was running this club up there.
Yeah.
And he would hire good players. I had it steady, I was playing permanent. And then he'd hire different drummers and piano players.
Right.
Sonny Clark.
Yeah.
And Bobby Timmons.
Right.
You work with them up in Port Chester?
Yeah.
Wow.
And a guy named Gilly Coggins.
I remember Gil Coggins.
Yeah, Gilly was a Lower East Side guy.
Yeah.
And who else? Tommy Flanagan.
Yeah.
Rudy Collins, Percy Price, different drummers. Anyhow.
Yeah. So anyway, but really, really positive people. Hank Jones, I guess you work with him?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Now there's a guy who adjusted to any situation,
Yeah.
and friendly person.
Yeah, well,
Remind me of Joe Wilder in a way.
Yeah.
He reminded you of Joe Wilder?
Joe Wilder is
the trumpeter,
a real gent,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well, with people like that, you're not gonna hear stories about, he finally got his, he finally got his ass kicked, you're not gonna hear about it, you know.
There's some other people we won't mention.
It's the only,
I mean, Louis Bellson on the West Coast, he had a reputation for being, you know, world record nice guy,
Yeah.
yeah, he's a nice guy.
you know.
I played with him.
And East Coast, I mean, the rap about Krupa was that he was a real nice guy.
The one guy that I might,
You don't have to, only if you want to.
Benny Goodman,
Well, you're the first person, wait a minute, you're the first person who ever criticized him.
not a pleasant guy.
You're the first person ever
He's
criticized
just
him.
joking, of course.
Yeah,
A lot of people said that about him.
yeah.
Yeah, people that met him. Even this guy, Bob Curtis, that was like, met him when he was 12 years old.
Yeah,
He got the Ray from Benny. He's 12 years old, he has his clarinet, and he's like, hey, Benny.
But as Phil Wood said, you know, he would criticize him, but he said he wanted to hold off on criticizing somebody that did so much for the music business. You know, he wanted to give him credit for that, you know?
Yeah,
And some of those people, I mean, you might want to strangle them, but some people didn't want people to know when they did good things. You know, certain producers and whatnot,
yeah.
and they did do good things. They just wanted to keep it quiet because they wanted to keep the son of a bitch reputation
Persona
going.
going.
Yeah, yeah. Some people, but
That doesn't make sense to me.
you work with Jimmy Maxwell,
Yeah,
and let's see. Yeah, I guess you know he had all his stories, but again, you know he credited Goodman, you know, allowing him to be a lead. You know, first gave him a job as a lead in the '30s, you know, and then the rest of the stuff it's all there to say, but he didn't even get it. And by the way, you know who Jimmy Maxwell married? Artie Bernstein's sister.
oh yeah?
Yeah. Did you know Artie Bernstein?
I didn't know him, I know who he is.
Yeah, that was his sister. But anyway,
Well, listen, the basic thing is, you know, why be that way, you know, why, you know, everybody appreciates good players and,
right.
but you don't have to get negative to it, you know. I mean, Benny would hire great players, but then he'd be nasty to them.
Treat him badly,
Yeah,
right?
doesn't make sense, you know.
Yeah.
Well, one person was saying Benny Goodman was really tough on his musicians, and Artie Shaw was really tough on his audiences. He would pick on the audiences, but he was a little smarter with musicians, you know,
Right.
because that's who he had to deal with.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway, any other comments about people you interacted with, or any other comments as you delve into about just the results themselves? Like you mentioned, you had a group of bass players, and you know you mentioned Pettiford, you mentioned Blanton, you mentioned Chambers.
Well, that was the Bill Crow
You
comment.
mentioned Pettiford, Blanton, Chambers, and who else?
Those were the three that I mentioned.
Those three. Okay.
I mean, as far as sound of the bass.
Yeah.
Percy Heath.
Percy Heath, wonderful.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other great bass players you could
He
mention.
played an Italian bass, Percy Heath, right?
So did Milt
Later.
Mill played an Italian bass.
later, right?
I don't agree.
No?
Say it again. You know what?
I
You
didn't-
knew Milt, so you would know.
Yeah, but I didn't think it was Italian. He
Oh,
called-
okay.
He called it a Grafiller, but
Oh.
I thought it was a big German bass, but
Oh, so
I may be wrong.
like my bass has a phony label in it, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It could be a phony label.
you know, that's the thing about basses, you know, that it's a matter of opinion.
Yeah,
you know.
but you and Bob and the people at David Gage all told me that's not an Italian bass you got. You know, and the bass that I have is Bohemian, so check.
Well, I hear the Juzik is just like it's more of a generic thing than some people think.
It's true.
It's more of a generalization than a real specific corporation.
Yeah,
Shop
well,
bass.
John Jusick Company, I mean, they bought basses from different sources and sold them.
You put their name
But
on
they're
it.
similar, you know, they have similar characteristics, sound-wise.
They put that insignia up on the top and the back.
There's some fake ones too, you know, like that have the insignia, but it's not really Jusic, you know. But and somebody,
Wilford Lang is another maker.
Right.
So anyway, but you know that's back to the instruments. I mean, when I saw Milt Hinton at his studio, he had it was Sullivan Powell. He had a studio like on 50th and 7th, and he had a bunch of like tiny, shallow things in there.
yeah,
I mean, imagine you had a lot of basses. And
yeah.
how many basses do you guys have? How many do you have, John?
Now I have 4.
And you still have that original-
I had 7.
You had 7. How many do you have?
I used to have 3 and I've got 2 now. I just sold one.
Okay.
That's the ideal.
Well, he had that studio, and he had like, I don't know, 6 or 7 of these things.
Yeah.
They're small things, you know.
Yeah.
And I never saw him play something like that on a gig.
It was Peter Washington that told me he was playing an Italian bass, and I didn't never
Well,
look
I
at
don't
his
know.
bass.
I don't know. I may be wrong.
But maybe he's wrong. You know.
But Percy certainly had a wonderful sound,
Yeah.
and he wasn't masked from so many of those recordings by a guitar. As great as that sounds, you know, nobody was comping quarters,
Right.
and you could just beautiful
Yeah, I love Percy. He's
to hear that thing. You know, that stuff with Miles Davis. You know, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a live band, but it was what he had in the studio. That stuff with Kenny Clark and Horace Silver and
The best.
that, and it just, he is just, it's hard to say he's the star of that record, but, because everybody was, but it was just, he was just bouncing, and
Yeah, no, he's a great player.
and what he brought out in Sonny Rollins was different than what was going on in other Rollins things. And then, you know, then you got to talk about this and that person with a tendency to go in a certain direction in terms of the time. Maybe if you're from Pittsburgh and you ended up in LA, you might have a reputation to rush, maybe, or maybe if
I know what you're talking about.
or maybe you know, maybe if you're also from Pittsburgh, you might have a tendency, you know, to slow down. It depends on, you know, what it is. But I mean, hopefully,
the best thing is if you're playing the bass is don't rush and don't drag. Just don't. If you could do that, then people will appreciate it.
Yeah, it's like
You play good time, and then that's just the best thing you can do, because that's what they need you to do. If you're rushing, making it hard for people. If you're dragging, also making it hard.
you know the story about Carl Fontana and Al Cohen. Carl says, "Yeah, I played with a drummer last night. When he played with sticks, he'd rush. When he played with brushes, he'd drag." And Al says, "Why doesn't he use one of each?"
That's great.
and some people do. They'll ride with a stick and they'll play
I've
with
seen it done.
brush or a mallet in their hand. But I mean, I don't know if this is true. Do you play with Chet Baker? Did you ever play with Chet Baker?
No, I never did.
Okay. He was talking about the guy who had the Lighthouse All-Stars. Who was that bass player?
Howard Rumsey.
Yeah, and he said about him that he did something that would be hard to do if you tried to do it. But he did it because it's the only thing he knew how to do. Now this is moving into another opinion. He said he played right in the center of the beat. And according to Baker, the band wouldn't swing unless somebody else was sitting in it. Because he was too much in the center of the beat.
For drums, that's one thing, but for bass, that's how you want to be, I think. You know.
Well, anyway, that was his comment, you know.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't know what it means.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and I think some of the stuff.
The beat is relative, you know. To if two guys are playing, two different guys, and the beat is not the same
Together.
to both of them.
You gotta be together.
Yeah,
You have to be together. It's like, it's just the bottom line. It's just playing
you
with
know,
the people you're
it
playing
can,
with.
It can sound good when it's like on the edge, you know.
Yeah.
It can sound good if it's laying back, you know.
Yeah, it takes to be together, it's the key.
But the pulse, it's still a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And it should be steady, you know.
Well, I think that you want it to be steady, but I mean, you know, if the feel is taking it some way, you have a decision to make about whether you're going to be rigid about, no, that's not where it was counted off. And some people, you know, they feel it's proper to go where the feel went if it moved the tempo a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get to a recording past 5 or 6 minutes, a lot of times that's where the things start to
It
fluctuate.
depends. I mean, for me, it's like that shows you who I want to play with and who I don't. You know, people that don't hear the tempo where I'm hearing it, or like I can't match up with them and keep it in the same spot, I don't really want to play with them.
I just heard
Any instrument, you know?
I just heard a thing on YouTube. Art Blakey's. It was Philly Joe sitting in with Monk.
Yeah.
Oh, rushed.
You hear that one?
I mean, are you going to say it rushed?
It's sped up.
Yeah.
Like unbelievable.
I think I've seen that on YouTube. Yeah.
Unbelievable speeding up.
Yeah. And then there's that, you know, the record Milestones.
Yes, that slows down, right?
Straight No Chaser slows down. I mean, even the Basie band, I've heard a 3-minute cut slow down.
Yeah.
With the old Basie, even that band. But I'm just saying, like, who was it? Noel Lewis, he said, who, you know, he's such a great timekeeper. He said, who's the leader? You know, when he's playing with Errol, subbing with Errol.
Yeah.
And you know, if Errol's slowing down, he's gonna do it. You know, I mean, there's no question of his feel.
Yeah.
You know.
How about Shirley Horn? sounds good.
Yeah.
She'll slow.
Slowing down.
Keep slowing down.
And it sounds good.
She did a good job of that.
Yeah, you know, the different ways have good feel, and that's another DC person, by the way.
I know, I played with her in DC.
Ah,
Play with
that's
her.
great, John.
I mean, before you came up?
Yeah.
Wow, so you played with her early?
Just from being around.
You played with her as a teenager?
Yeah, probably. You know,
Wow.
I just remember playing with, and also I played with Nellie Lutcher. How about that?
Wow.
But talking about slowing down, I remember Stokowski used to, like if the orchestra started dragging sometimes, he would drag it down more. On purpose. You know, he said, well, it's going this way.
Where we're going.
Yeah, it's going this way, I'll take it
Yeah.
a little more, you know?
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, many options to be considered, but I mean, you can, I guess cause a train wreck by simply asserting the time and forgetting the feel in some cases. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to be real brutal
Well,
about
you
it.
know, when a leader taps off a tempo, you want to play that tempo, right?
Right.
You don't want to start out playing slower than
Or
the
faster.
tempo.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's one thing after like 7 or 8 minutes if people, you know, they have a lot of drum trades and everything and it starts to move around.
Yeah.
It's not okay,
Yeah.
but it's more understandable than if you're not unifying with that leader within the first chorus.
Yeah.
You certainly want to be there in the first,
Yeah.
you know,
I have
chorus
to
at
say
least.
that playing with years of playing with a click track really helps your time.
Okay.
In the studios, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't want to know about the click because they think it's too rigid and you can't play musically, but you can,
It's true.
you know?
That's true.
And you absolutely can.
It's true. It's a.
No, same thing with practicing with the metronome.
It's like playing with a metronome.
Yeah.
Like we played things with Ronnie Zito, we played things you know, whatever, this Tony Award show we did, long things. We'd be playing, you wouldn't even hear the click. You'd get beyond the click,
Right.
you know?
Right.
You're just playing, and
Music.
it feels right.
Everybody's
it feels,
playing the same tempo.
Feels good and everything. But you need to click with films, movies,
Right.
with a big orchestra,
Yeah.
because it has to work out right with the film,
Right.
you know?
Can't be.
Yeah, I'm
has to be
sure.
exact.
I'm sure. I guess probably
I mean,
in
it's-
Studio World films were using click tracks before pop
Yeah,
singers are
yeah,
using
it
click
has-
tracks.
It has to be, you
You know,
know?
Bernard Herrmann and all that stuff.
Yeah,
You're doing that stuff early
Yeah.
on,
yeah.
for sure. Otherwise, you can't synchronize. I mean, you know, as we look back on it now, we want to see these people from the swing era. What we see is not a married print. They had to, you know, do them separately. Remember all the soundies you've seen? You know, what you see is not what you hear.
Oh, I see what you mean.
To make the married
This is
print, they had to
miming.
make 2 different
They're
things.
like miming or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like when you see in Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, you know, they're doing the visuals, you're seeing all that. In some cases, Nick Castle was doing the sound for Ginger Rogers. But the sound was made separately up until, I don't know, maybe sometime in the 50s.
Okay.
Ah,
It's why, you know, I mean, you've seen some rhythm sections in the old soundies where you can see somebody playing quarter notes and it's not synchronized
yeah,
with what's going on because they're playing something, you know, they're trying to
Right.
fake with something. And the Jam and the Blues, that Graham's production, that was a married print. You're seeing what you're hearing. But even later than that, he was doing stuff that was separate, you know,
Right.
put together. But,
Well, we were talking about sidelining. We talked about it a while ago, like a film situation where you have to get
Oh,
they
yeah.
hire a band to sideline, right?
Yeah,
And they're not actually playing. I mean,
yeah.
they're not using the sound from the. You know, that's the same
Right,
idea, right?
Fake it, yeah.
Faking it.
yeah, sure.
So.
Many different examples of that. So any other anecdotes about personalities, positive or anything like that? You played with Duke Ellington. When was that? What was the situation with that?
Oh, that was interesting. My daughter was about 7,
And how old are your children now, by the way?
59, 60.
Okay. And 4
Anyhow,
grandchildren.
we're out at Fire Island, and my daughter comes running down to the beach and said, there's a guy on the phone, Mercer. So I went up and got picked up the phone and he said, can you make this gig at the Rainbow Room? Joe Benjamin had some kind of fender bender or something, he couldn't make the gig, and they were doing a TV show. So I said, yeah, I'll make it. So I got a chance to play with Duke Ellington.
It was on a TV show.
Yeah.
So it got filmed.
Yeah. It was,
So there's a film
it was
of you
a live
with-
show with Tony Bennett was on it.
But it was filmed, so it's out there. It's
I don't know where it is.
I mean, it exists.
Who knows? I don't know. But anyhow, I got a chance to play with Duke Ellington.
That's an experience that you can't buy.
I know. So I got
You know?
that. I said, and Mercer says, you want to see the book? I said, yeah, it'll help. You know, I look at the book and it says blank pages. There's nothing, titles, nothing, no baseballs.
Yeah.
You know.
I think Charlie Rouse was with him briefly in the 40s, and he was there for a while, and he didn't have any parts, and he went to Duke Ellington, and he said, well, where about my parts? He said, that's why I hired you. You know.
But the interesting thing, Tony Bennett was singing I Left My Heart in San Francisco, and I don't think Duke was familiar with it, you know, and he just waited for the bass note.
You just fill it in, right?
Yeah.
Pretty good job, I bet, right?
And I was
Right next to him.
down
Yeah.
at the end of the piano, you know.
Yeah.
It was fun, man.
Who was on drums?
Speedy Jones.
Rufus Speedy Jones.
Yeah.
From South Carolina.
Yeah.
That's great.
Wow.
And so that was an experience. So then, later on, I'd be walking down the street someplace, and this jingle producer says, I didn't know you were with Duke.
You saw you on TV.
Yeah, I was with them one night. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
And so any other, how about some of those pop singers? Any interesting things there that went on? Any kind of memorable anecdote about an altered take or something?
About what?
Anything. Any funny stories about any of the works with the pop singers with Barbra Streisand? You work with her?
Yeah, we did a tour, and we did Madison Square Garden, and she'd yell at the audience if they were acting up, you know.
Wow.
Told them to shut the fuck up.
Oh, right.
How about Don Lemon? Did you ever work with him on any of those gigs?
Not what?
Don Lemon, the
Yeah,
drummer.
no. I played with Don Lemon, with Rusty Dedrick, and some recordings, and you know, I had heard him on Woody Herman records when I was in high school. And it's like all these guys that I ended up playing with, I couldn't believe that I'm playing with.
Yeah.
Guys that, you know, that you hear when you're a kid. You know.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And when you work with him, did you mention DC? Don Lemon? Because that's where he's from.
Well, I knew the connection with the Swopes. And, I didn't talk with him much. I played on some record that he heard, and he wrote me a nice letter saying, "You sound great on this record." You know.
Yeah.
It was a dumb record too. It was a record made for the Pacific Rim produced by some Chinese guy.
Yeah.
And it was all classical music, jazz version of classical music.
That's a bad idea.
I know.
But some people have bad ideas.
Dave Samuels was on it, Ronnie Zito.
Okay. Yeah.
Schubert Trout Quintet.
Right? Swinging it?
Got to play a hot solo on that. It's embarrassing. You know?
I guess so. Well, this friend of mine,
Don
I know it's embarrassing, but you're like, it's
complimented.
probably been a lot of that, right? Like, I mean, like,
Yeah.
this guy that I play with a lot, he says, yeah, I'm not here to play on some lame singer's record. That's not what I'm here for. And then this other guy goes, it's too late for me. And it's true of me too. I played on some recordings that I'm not proud of.
Oh.
And at the time, you just want to do it, right?
Yeah.
But then you like later, you think back, like, I wish maybe I should have done that. You know?
No, you go for what
You can get, I guess.
you go for what it is. You know.
Yeah.
I've done records with the singing nun. You know.
Who's that?
No, this guy who used to work for he'd write albums for any purposes. There was one record for a guy who tried to sing like Sinatra, who was an undertaker,
Oh, jeez.
but he was connected with the mob.
Oh, right. Right.
get into.
Don't name it
I
names.
don't wanna get into anymore.
Yeah. Well, Brian, what do you think? Should we wrap up here? Or you,
I guess we can, yeah.
it's getting kind of long.
I just want to
Day here.
relate one thing about the future.
Yeah.
It's the tip of the iceberg, man.
Yeah,
We should
well-
do another interview.
Oh, I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
All right, well, hold on, hold on. He has to do one with Neil too, so.
Yeah, that's going to be great with me and
Yeah.
with Monk Rowe up at Hamilton College. He'll do it. He should do it.
I don't know.
He'll do it. You know Monk Rowe's interviews at Hamilton College.
I don't know about
And
that.
he puts them online. Now he's doing them Zoom. But
Okay.
usually everybody, they would either come to Hamilton or he'd go to like Clearwater, Florida, backstage at some
Yeah.
festival,
Yeah.
and he would do people in person. So he's been
Right.
doing them since the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw one with Connie Condoli and
Yeah.
with Frischberg too.
Okay.
That's a good one too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're great interviews.
Yeah. One thing-
Not like this interview. It's total. This interview is
Alright.
like this interview is 360 degrees groping for information.
All right.
You know, and it's got a lot of information.
One thing Frischberg said on that interview was he said the thing that changed jazz was the secondary seventh chord, like all the things you are.
Yeah.
So up until then, like,
You mean a secondary dominant?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, you know, like all the things you are.
Yeah.
Joan Krohn changed the whole harmonic system of jazz, you know.
Writing
I
tunes
think he was
wise,
right
right?
about that.
Writing tunes have that kind
Yeah,
of action.
yeah.
Well, Sondheim sat down and used that as a template for learning.
Well, he was after Jerome Kern.
No, but he took that piece
Uh-huh.
and it was like his primer. He analyzed the hell out of that
Yeah.
as a foundation for how to handle harmonies and the linking of harmonies and melodies, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you got all the force and then the tritones moving
That's
around,
a beautiful
and then the
tune.
force and the melodies moving around,
Yeah.
and he really he took that thing to heart, and
Yeah.
and then he was personally connected to Hammerstein.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Right.
he had a personal connection to him.
Yeah.
But in any event, what I would say about the future is one thing to be understood. You say wrap it up. Okay, we'll wrap it up. But we're not wrapping it up like this. Like John and I didn't come here and we didn't like, okay, we've got John Beal tied up. We got him summed up. Here's the story. Here's the story. Because there's a future and it extends. So there's a woman and she is 100 years old and she has lived nowhere except Stuttgart, Germany. And on her birthday, 100th birthday, a reporter's meeting her and congratulating her. And the reporter says, congratulations, so you've lived your entire life in Stuttgart. And she says, not yet, young man.
Not yet. I like that. Not yet. Not
Yeah,
over
so,
yet.
so in other words, not yet, John Beal. It's
Oh,
like, it
oh,
goes
right.
on, you're going to do with Neil Miner,
Right.
and we can
right,
get together again.
right. Very good.
And
But Sondheim, I played almost all of his shows.
Yeah.
Into the Woods, you were on the original?
Yeah, and two revivals.
Yeah.
And did you interact with him?
Yeah, I said, is this note the same? Is this supposed to be the same as it was the first time? He says, no, that's what makes great art, the differences,
That's a good one.
you know?
That's a good quote. Sondheim. I like that. He says, that's not, yeah, that's good.
No, but, you know, I was around him a lot,
Yeah.
but I subbed in most of his shows also.
And you did stuff at
Yeah, played his.
and
in fact, I just
Encores,
got an email-
Encores, you did some of his
Just
things.
got an email from some guy from the Library of Congress. We played his 70th birthday celebration at the Library of Congress. And this guy wants to get a release or something to put it out somehow.
Sondheim's 70th?
Yeah, a lot of people on that concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a while back.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's a while back, yeah.
yeah,
Because he was 90-something, right?
yeah,
When he escaped.
yeah, I think so.
And there's a great interview with him. One of his, is it a grandchild? Is somebody connected to, how is it? Is it somebody, a grandchild of Oscar Hammerstein? Somebody who writes himself. And he interviewed Sondheim. And there were two insiders. They were both craftspeople, but they didn't blow it away for the layperson. It was a
Right.
great interview, and it's online.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is wonderful, and guess we can stop
All right.
now.
All right, man.
Oh, just say one thing. Your grandchildren. What are the names of your grandchildren? What are the name of your kids, and then what are the name of your grandchildren?
Nick, Lydia, Lucy and Clara.
That's your grandchildren.
Yeah,
And your children, the names are?
Charlie and Jane.
Okay,
All right.
that's wonderful.
That's them.
All right, the gene pool keeps going.
Yeah,
And now they know that your children know that their great-grandparents were, they knew it, they knew they were missionaries. They knew that.
yeah.
But maybe your grandchildren didn't know that.
I don't know.
Maybe your grandchildren didn't know that. Methodists, maybe Methodists.
Well,
Okay.
hey, John, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Well, thanks for
Ryan,
coming.
thank you.
and,
thank you.
Yeah.
Free associating with me.
Okay.
Good time.